maybe illustrate. Let's see. The first thing that one thing that people have often seen before is just basics in the. Oh, I see. Emily's connecting. Basics in the use of Illustrator. So I'm kind of going to go through that and kind of show you guys how to make basic stuff or where basic tools are. So right now you should be able to see my Illustrator window. And some people were asking like where tools live in my windows. And basically my windows are the standard default. So I think that there's a way, let me find it real quick. I think it's in settings actually. If you come down to preferences, then you can actually see the areas that you can do the appearances. I also will pull out windows. So you can see right now there are certain windows that are open. And then I'll actually pull those windows over. So like, for example, if I wanted to keep track of, let's say, brushes, you can see that this has now popped up as a separate window. And it actually already is living here inside my second menu bar. So basically you have one menu bar here, one menu bar here on the left, another menu bar across the top, and you can actually have two on the top, depending on where you like stuff to display. And then over here is the window display. I like to have artboards, properties, and layers showing because those are my basic uses as I go through making a design. And then all of these are windows that I commonly use. So you can see right here is my Glyph window. Right here is the character window. You know, I use the stroke widths and types. So that's living there. Here's my color window. So that's like, for example, pulling a color that you want to use in your project. So really it kind of shifts over time what you have in your projects and what you end up pulling over to the side to make it a kind of it's a quick access versus having to come up here and go to Windows, say, oh, okay, where was that? Is it all the way down here? Because I can see that I've got all this, you know, where do I find it? And like here, okay, history, there's the things that I've done. So now if I decide, you know what, I need history to be something that I can easily go back on, because this is basically all of your undos. So if you want to keep track versus looking up here and saying, oh, I'm gonna Control Z undo as far as I can, then what you can do is just have the history window open. And with these, you just pull them over to the side and you can see that this menu turns blue. And the blue is indicating where you're putting this. So you can actually come up here and put it underneath any of these others, depending on what you have there and what you would like to cluster together, basically. So I'm going to drop it here on the bottom, and you can see that it's using kind of an undo icon. And when we pop that out, we can see what we're having done. So like right here, I select this and I'm going to drag that over, but now it has moved. And if I come over here and take this piece and I'm going to scale it, then it shows the scale. So now I can say, you know what, I want to go back to the one before the scale. I want to go back to the one before the move. So you can easily go back and forth on it depending on what you're trying to do. Like if I said, oh no, I forgot that I have to have, you know, I have to add 2 more tabs to this before I move it, then you can easily do that. So let's start out with the basic tools. This black arrow up here, I call it the black arrow. It's also the V arrow if you use your keyboard shortcuts. And you can see it's actually called the selection tool instead of an arrow. And I call it the black arrow. So anytime you're watching any of my videos, it'll be the black arrow. This is the white arrow, which you can see is direct selection tool. I'm sorry, I never told you what the black arrow can do. The black arrow can select a lot of stuff. It selects the whole thing. So like I did when I did my move, if I move something, it's taking everything. So that's good in a lot of ways, in a lot of designs, but the white arrow is actually more interesting because this is the direct selection tool, or the A arrow, and the white arrow actually lets you select a piece of something. So if I come in here and select this, the whole thing highlights, but this line is all that I'm affecting. So if I come over here and I say, you know what, this point is all that I want to do, and I want to move it so we have like an interesting angle up here in the square. Well, now it's not a square. So this will let you just grab little segments like here. If you want to pull this down, you can, and it'll help you with the alignment to keep it centered. Then you can basically just grab little pieces and do what you need to with it. Now, one of the things I like to do is when I'm actually creating something with the pen tool, which we'll get to in a minute, then the white arrow, lets you go back in and really adjust the anchors, and you can really tweak the project. Okay, the magic wand tool, also Y. I don't use so much in here because it's for fill, I'm not sure, select on this. I know it's normally used for fill, but I don't do a whole lot of filled artwork. That would be good for engraving. The lasso tool is actually really nice because this is a white arrow, but this white arrow, you can say, you know what, I want to collect all of these points right here, and it acts like a lasso. So you whip it out and round it up, and then you take your arrow and you've got all of those connected in the movement. So that's something that's kind of nice when you're trying to go in, especially in a design where you're trying to get this like this is a really simple design with the points that are used. If you want to go in and get like, you know, between the points or something in a really intricate design, then the lasso tool is definitely a great one. The pen tool, also the P key, is what lets you make your lines. So for example, you click here and you click there, and now you have a line. You can keep going, and you can then make a box. So you have this is your main basic tool. If I said, excuse me, I actually want to make curves on this, one of the things you can do is make a Bezier curve. So I know that sounds like something that sounds too fancy, right? Really what it is you make a point and another point, and before you let go, you actually pull handles off of your anchor. And these curves right here, these handles, give you control over the curve itself. Now, sometimes you want to curve and then you want to go straight back to making another straight line or something. So you can see that it's trying to do another curve because this handle is so far out. Anything that you make now is going to be informed by that handle. So if you want to, while you're in the pen tool, while you're doing this, you can hit the Alt key, which then becomes the handle tool. And you can take that handle all the way back to the anchor, which then means now you're free to move about and create a line. You can create, let's see here, let's go there. And now we've made, I guess it's a big slice of pie. So, so with that, that was the pen tool and the alt key. And you can do a lot of stuff with that. If you want to do curves more, then there is the curvature tool, which I call the pen tool with waves, or curves. And this one, it's right up here. It's Shift and Enye, which is kind of a weird thing. So I always just go grab it up out of my menu. It's not one I remember to do. And honestly, the only shift combination I remember is the handle key. So with this though, what it wants you to do is it wants you to make a 3-point curve. So if you say, I have, actually, let's go back a minute and we're gonna make a box to show this off. So the rectangle tool is also the shape tool. So when you're over here on your menu, you see rectangle tools M. If you click and hold, you'll see that you have the option of a rectangle tool, a rounded rectangle tool, an ellipse, which is basically a circle, but you can make an egg shape. Polygon tool, which is making shapes with more than more than 4 sides. So if you wanted to make a 6-sided piece, then you'd use the polygon tool and then tell it how many sides you want. And here's the star tool. The star tool is the one that I was using for a lot of holiday stuff. And then I was modifying my star to make it where I liked it. So you can go and get the basics if you don't want to draw it, and then you can either just use it or you can customize it. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool and I'm going to click. There's 2 ways to do this. You can click, you can say, I want a box that's 2 inches wide and 1 inch tall. Now, I feel like there's a lot of running around here because each tool has got stuff that you can do with it. In this case, you can constrain. So for example, if you say 2 and 1 is my base size, but if I make something bigger, I want it to stay in that ratio. So now if you come in and say, I want to make a 5-inch box, then it does the math for you and it creates the 2.5-inch height based on your constraints. So we're going to make a box. And we're going to go back to the curvature tool. And the box is basically just a guide for us. So the curvature tool, and I know I'm jumping around, that's why this is being recorded, so you can go back and kind of listen again and just listen to one tool at a time if you want to. The curvature tool wants 3 points. So let's say your first point's here. And you can see it's not doing anything. And it's like, well, why? The pen tool actually shows something as an outline. Well, it wants you to pick an area. And now, okay, you have a straight line. But you can see that now as you go to pick your 3rd point, you're actually doing a curve with it. So depending on where you do this 3rd point, then it will decide which curve you want to use with it. And you're not limited to 3, it just is minimum 3. So if I came here and then I created that curve, you can see it's still wanting the curve for me. So I could just bring it back up and make another. Let's see if we can get this right. Now with this, you can see that even though it's the same, because I'm going from a point that's not quite in the center of this curve, it's now changed the curve to accommodate this new excuse me, this new angle that I'm going at. So now I can say, you know what, I actually want to go back to something really oval or really round. So let's do that. But then I want to come back and you can see that it keeps changing for you. And then eventually you can stop and it'll actually change that line to kind of match your shape when you complete the shape. So the curvature tool is a lot of fun just to play with because you can say, oh, I'm just gonna make an X, or I'm sorry, a box. And then you can see you've got this nice pillow out of it instead. And then I'm gonna keep going. Maybe I want to make a swirl for holidays or for New Year's or for birthday stuff. And so you can easily get a swirl out of this that I like to go in and clean up with the A tool. And you can see it looks pretty good right now. You know, you could use that as a base, but I go in with the A arrow, white arrow, and I'll also move things based on this. So you can see that it's taking that segment and it keeps that curve for you. But as we mentioned before, you can actually do something like bring it here. And then now we have that handle. Another nice thing about the A arrow, the white arrow, is that you can grab handles and move them. So it's not quite the same as the handle tool because that'll actually clear them out. But here you can say, okay, I move that. And now I change the angle just a little bit. And this is now a nicer spiral because of it. Where are we? The line tool, I don't use as much because I use the pen tool. The pen tool is like my number one tool in here. The line tool does exactly what you think. It makes a line. If you just click with it, you can tell it that I want a 2-inch line and I want it at 45 degrees. So if you're doing something that's, you know, really specific, say you're trying to do, you know, 45 degree angles to be able to cluster around something, then this will make you a line that's at 45 degrees and you can grab it and move it. So you don't have to bother with trying to use the rotate tool and trying to get the 45 degrees from it. So it's nice. I generally don't use it, but a lot of people use it and a lot of people really like it. One of the things you can do too, as we get back around, let me go back to the pen tool, and this is going to be kind of an aside with the line tool, is you can use the pen tool. And as many people have said that they like to use multiple lines to create a line instead of engraving, it's actually using the score method. So here you could select it, click Alt on the keyboard, and then you can see the double arrow that it shows. When I click that, it's actually going to pull another line. So we'll do the line pretty close together like that because you want it to appear as a solid later. And then now with the Control D tool, it's the duplicate keyboard shortcut. I really like keyboard shortcuts, so that's what I'll use first usually, unless it's one that I just don't remember. Then with dupe, you can actually start making lines like on the same angle. You know, you're basically doing the same movement over and over again that you did before. And then that's going to give you something that looks like an engraved line, but it's actually multiple lines together. And you can actually see, if you look in here, the number of times that you did it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. So we should have 6 of those, maybe 7. Okay. So this shape tool, basically, the rectangle tool, we've already covered. The rounded rectangle tool is just helping you out by adding the rounded corners. So if you said, you know what, I want to do something that's kind of like a, oh gosh, I don't even know, a badge carrier or something that you needed to make sure that it didn't have corners that would like poke someone. So you want to make sure it just rounds it off, or you could even do, you know, a very, very rounded piece just to use as your, you know, background cutting, or, you know, however you want to use it. So this is really nice because I can say, okay, I know a business card is 3.5 by, oh, I think it's 1.5. Is that right? And this basic is 0.06 inches, which if y'all are using 1/8 wood, you know that that's half of 1/8 inch. So that's 1/16 inch rounding. A lot of people really like the look of 1/4 inch rounding. So we're gonna do 0.25 instead, and that's gonna make our box. And you can see it's nicely rounded, and you didn't have to mess with that. Messing with it isn't that big a deal, and you can actually get more control if you do. If you look at this box that we made earlier, then you can see that there are these circles in the corners, and that's a rounding point, like a rounding option that you have. So you can see when you roll over that circle, the curve appears with the cursor. So when you have that, you click on it and you drag, and now you have control over how much you round, and you can round all the way to the center of the piece. So if we come back, you can see on my counter here, it's getting back to, there's 0.24. And then you can also just do a little bit, and you can see why they had the 0.06. It's just a teeny bit of a curve. And that usually just knocks the corners off if you're working with wood. Let's see, what else were people asking about? One of the things that I have, and I believe it's a free plugin from Astute. If you haven't looked at Astute plugins, then you really want to check them out. One of the things I think is a freebie is this dynamic measure tool. And this guy is a basically a ruler in your pocket. So if you say, gosh, I want to make something that matches this piece right here. So I want to know what size that is, just so I have it. Then you can start here, click, drag out. Right now I'm holding shift to make sure it goes straight versus just letting it go anywhere. So shift will actually snap it. And then here you can see is the end. And now it leaves a marker for you. And it says, look, this is 2.5588, which is very, very detailed. You know, going to 4 decimals past the decimal point is a lot. I think you may notice your calipers only go to 2 after the decimal point. So this then will stay here until you decide to delete it. And I don't have the window pinned inside my workspace. I actually have it over on my other monitor. So I can't show it to you, but it actually, let me see if I can pull it over and show it to you. There. So you can see it actually has all the details. You can decide what you're going to do. You can decide if you're going to convert it to art, which would be like if you have a layer that you're making to show someone the exact distances on things. Oops, simply there. Then you can have a lot of choices. Now, if you convert it to art, then that means it's rasterized, I believe. It's no longer vector. but you don't really need it to be vector because you don't want it to change, you know, in this point measurement that you do. Even if you decide to change the actual shape itself, let's say you got the arrow black, which is the selection tool, and moved that, you could still see that that snaps there. So I actually was probably wanting the A tool to grab this guy first and pull it down. But you can see that distance is still there if you wanted to do something with it. Okay, let me see. Snap that back on my other window. I'm going to pull out from my Illustrator right now, and let me find my Zoom there. Oh no, I almost shared a video instead. Here we go, stop sharing. Okay, so, and I'm not sure why it keeps showing other people instead of me here in this main view. It's probably something I'll have to figure out at some point. Let me check my settings really quick. This is trying to make me use apps and everything. So, okay. What I'm going to do now is I am going to go back into Illustrator, and then we're going to start making a shape. We're at 2:30, we're doing pretty good. So let's come back over here and let's make a new document. Since that was actually something that I was working on, I'll have to revert it back to the save. Okay. Here we go. Now, one of the basic things that people want to do is they want to make names on stuff. So a big thing is a zipper pull or an ornament. And a lot of people like to just do the name, or they like to do an outline around the name. So the key thing that people don't necessarily look at is that when you're making a name, obviously the font matters. So we're going to pick a name here. Let's go with Jeremiah. That's got some stuff that doesn't normally connect. And size this up so it's easier to see. Now this is the basic font that my Illustrator puts type into. It's Myriad Pro, it's regular, and I think it starts out at something like 11 points. And I've just now zoomed it up to what is it, 136 points. So this is pretty big, but it's scalable. So right now I'm doing this just basically, like, I think this is 7, yeah, it says 7 by 2. So here, let's pull it back down to something that makes more sense. Like, that's about 5 by 1.5. So it's going to change based on our font choice anyway. Now, if you guys can see my fonts, then you'll see that all my active fonts that are live on my machine are available here. And so what I like to do is I like to just go through and I use a font management system, and I go through and I activate fonts as I need them, because fonts actually take up a ton of memory. So if you go through and activate every single font you have, then Adobe's got to look at every single font you have as it loads, and it's going to really slow you down. So let's see, let's pick something that looks like it's got a lot of mixed. that one's kind of nice, but all of these are really not scripty. That's not scripted. Let's keep going here. And there's that one, which almost everything is there. We'll see if this one has got a different character in the glyphs. So right now my J is kind of lackluster. It doesn't really come across as a J. It kind of comes across as maybe an S with that little hole right there. So I'm going to select it, and when you go to the glyph panel, which is right here, it's an A, like a kind of like a calligraphy A. Then you can pull up and see what the font has for you. The other thing you can do is you can also go into your windows, and I believe you have to go to type first. There we go. And anything with an arrow like this, you can see it's going to have more below it, and then glyphs. So, there we go. It's loading. I've got a bunch of stuff going on my computer right now. Okay, so this shows you everything you have available in this font. So if you look at the capital J and say, you know what, I don't like it, I want something else, then you can come across and you can say, okay, here's HIJ right here, double click it, and it changes it over to that. That's not bad, because we can use that in a a zipper pull or a keychain or a ornament pretty easily. So there's that option, or we can keep coming down and you can see now we've got some heart glyphs, and you say, okay, here's the heart glyph in the J. And of course you have to, every time you double click, it just adds it in, so you'd have to clean it up. This is cute. So you can use this for a Valentine's keychain, and you can actually then kind of work with this heart and work it into the shape where then maybe you add a circle down here where the actual hole goes in for the hardware. So it gives a little room for options there. Let's keep looking. And let's see, here's the lowercase j, which is pretty cute as well. We have the same option there. Like, look at this nice hole that, you know, this space gives you to put the hole for the hardware. And that's actually kind of nice because it's not offset. It's almost center to the rest of the text. So that'll hang nicely. Let's see down here. We do have a few other glyphs. Here's one with the J. Select this one. So where it pulls out to a heart, which is not bad. I'm not liking that as well as the other ones. And let me see. J. There's yet another one. And there we go. And that's really cute too. I think it's a little more subtle than the other one. If I had to choose, I would come back and go with the, where did it go? The J with the heart. I think it was the lowercase J, heart, wasn't it? Oh, no, that's a different one. Now this one, okay, so this is actually a really good point to look at. You can see that the heart, as it works, is over, like it's making a really big gap between the J and the E. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that every time you have anytime you're working with type, you can go in and you can adjust the distance between the letters. So if I use the arrow keys, I can arrow back and forth. And a lot of people don't necessarily do that because they don't think to. I know the mouse is always the first thing you look at, but it gets kind of be tedious when you're using the mouse when you can just use the arrow keys. It's so much easier. So here though, I'll show you if you use Alt and you arrow key right, you're saying give me some space between these letters. Okay, if you hit Alt and you arrow key left, you're saying I want to snug these letters up a lot more than they were. Now you can see, you know, both ways. This font already had it pretty nicely done. So if you want to, you can just pull back out and you can see that the lines match up right there. And you just, you know, take a look at it, watch it, make sure that, you know, you're not a gap over. It's like that, for example, looks like it might be, but it actually is one step too far. So now with this, we're going to use Alt and left, and we're going to pull the rest of the name underneath this heart. And this way, then we can see if we like this. So I'm going to pull this where we have the same gap between the J and the E as other letters and see if I think that's readable. Now, just looking at it right now, it's not bad. I think I still like the other J better, but this is definitely something to kind of keep an eye on and think of for other stuff, maybe a different name. So let's go back to the other J. If I can find it, let's find it here. There was that one, and then there was the little one. Where did the little one go? I'm looking. J. That one, that's the one. Okay. So let's delete this one. Now this one, okay, we're gonna work with this and we're gonna make our keychain. So right now, if it looks good, then we're gonna go with this. What we're gonna do is we're going to make sure the thickness that we want it for is enough. So if you go through this and say, you know what, I don't think this is going to engrave really well with all of these thin lines, then we're going to have a trick to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn this into art, and we can work with the art better than we can work with the text. So you go to type, create outlines, which is also Shift Control O. I rarely use the keyboard shortcut for this. So Shift Control O or create outlines. And now this is all an actual artwork. So now we can get in here, and this is kind of what I was talking about before with the white arrow, the direct selection, is that we can say, you know what, we want some of this to actually be a little bigger. So you can see there's our lines, and you can see where the points are on the lines that you can go in and affect. And if you notice right now, this is a standalone letter. It hasn't been united with the rest of the word. So any of our stuff that we do, we can easily do before it's connected to this, and then adds more complexity to the shape. So right now we're going to say, you know what, this guy, sorry, I have it all selected. So this anchor point right here, we're going to pull, and it's going to give us some thickness. And if you look, you're like, oh yeah, that's okay thickness, but I need it to be the same thickness for this whole thing to really make it work. And here you can see there's a whole lot of anchor points there for no good reason. Let's take a close up in on that. And I'm just zooming in, Control and Space, and you use the plus magnifier, and you can just drag it back and forth with your mouse, and you can get really tight and then go out really quickly. So it looks to me here like this has got way too many points. So I'm going to go back out, and I'm going to show you guys another fun trick. It's fun, actually, it's just a trick. So now whenever you're working with art, it becomes an object. So you can see a lot of what you're going to be doing is objects or effects. That's pretty much where you end up with this. So now in object, you can see there's a lot of options, and I'm not going to get into every one of them today. But what I am going to do is go to path, and you can see there's various options here. So there's outline stroke, offset path, and there's also simplify. Simplify is great if you're using something where you convert a shape and then you have too many points, and they know it, we know it, they decided to do it anyway. So we need to clean that up. So just by hitting simplify, now look at all of the dots that you see. All of those are anchor points on the heart, on the various lines, the swashes, and the letter itself. So now simplify is going to bring this up, and immediately it will have immediately it will have a number that it's done. So oops, I accidentally did it while I was selecting with the white arrow, which is just one piece. We want to select, oh, there we go. We want to select just this shape. So back over to object, path, simplify. And you can see a lot of these went away really quickly. I am seeing a little shape change that I'm not necessarily after. So when you come into here, you can see all of the minor controls that'll give you a much different look on things. So the simplified curve is at 75% right now. And what you can see that means is that it's giving you more points than less. Otherwise you'd be at 50. So watch the points, and if you look and we go to 50, then you should have seen some disappear. And we can actually drag this too. So we just want to go down to there, like 22%, you can really see how it affects the shape. Now, it's not necessarily bad because it does feel a little smoother, a little more loose. But I would say we would probably want to keep some of the shape. So let's go up to like a 34. And the corner point angle is going to be basically how sharp your corners are. So you can see right now it's a curve versus the really strict point, and it's at 150 degrees, which is very sharp. So we're going to smooth it down, and you can see now all of a sudden it gets really relaxed, and it just, let's see if we actually get any more change after this. There we go. Just kind of laying all out right there. And I prefer a little bit more structure. So I'm going to come back up here. We were at 150, and I think I'm going to go back to 150. If we get tighter, you can see it adds all those points back in, which we had before. And we kind of don't want all of those points because we're going to be moving stuff around. So now you can see, this is the really nice thing about this dialog box, is that it'll tell you originally there were 108 points and now we're down to 24. So that's a really nice jump down to only having 24 that we're working with. Now you can say, okay, and we can actually go back. So I'm going to Control Z, and you can see what it was. And now I'm going to redo, or like I showed you before, you go to your history, and I'm going to go back to simplify. So you can see we got relaxed in a couple of areas. So maybe we did a little bit more than we wanted to. But for time right now, I'm going to go ahead with this. Okay, so this is fatter. This is super thin right here. So we're going to come in and we're going to adjust that curve. Use the white arrow, A, and we're going to grab that handle. Select the point, grab the handle, and now you're pulling that down. Now you can see that the other end is pulling up when I do this. So that's why, while you can use the white arrow for this, so that's nice, then you could also do Shift C and get that handle tool. And you can just do one side at a time if you wanted to. Okay, so this is looking good. Let's kind of scan around on this. That could probably, let's go back to the A arrow. Let's see where our points are on this. There's no point here. So there's no point to this. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to select the curve. And you can see that it's going to affect this whole section. And in fact, it's affecting the whole curve itself. So I'm going to undo. And what we want to do, if we can, is we just want to pull the little part up here. Now, if we do that, it's changing the angle of this. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the point and I'm going to see, oh, look, that one is going that way. So when it's such a sharp difference between the handles, and obviously that's making this V curve, then I'm going to use the Shift C, and this is the handle tool. And I'm going to go in and grab that handle. Oops, I accidentally removed it. You can just delete handles, by the way, if you think it's about too much. And I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. And now you can see also that the rest of this is controlled. So the end of this one over here is controlled by this handle. So what we'll do is we'll come back out and we'll thicken it up there. So now if I zoom out, it looks pretty good. And I think that that'll engrave well. Now we could go down here and say, you know what, this sharp right here, I'm going to go back to the A tool, the white arrow. This sharp right here is kind of bugging me. So I want to round it out. So it's got that little dot there. And now you can round it versus it being a real sharp corner like it was. And do the matching on the bottom. So a lot of this is really easy. Now you can see right here, the thickness is controlled by this handle. So now we know we want the handle tool, Shift C, makes that nice little V shape. And with the handle tool, we're going to grab it and just thicken this up, just like that. If we wanted to, we could use the A arrow, and that's the white direct selection tool. And we could move this point up a little bit. I just saw that that handle made that tighter up there again. So we're going to pull that down. And then we're going to come across to here in this guy. So this guy, you can see it got softened up by the simplify. This guy, we really just want to move the points because then it'll be thicker. I also kind of don't like how they don't match up here. So I'm going to select both points and I'm going to drag them down to match. And it looks like we probably want to drag the top one up a little, just thicken up. So we're not going to mess with the curve and everything right now. This is kind of a calligraphic thing where it comes over in curves and then pulls up, and we could add a curve to this, but I'm also really running low on time. So, oops. So you can see it's got the E here that's overlapping, or you can just take the whole thing and move it a little bit closer. It'll still look good. And there. So now you can see that J, not only have you made it where it's going to engrave better, you've actually given it your own style. So now it's not quite the same as that J that you started from. And it's not quite the same as any other J that someone's going to be able to get. So, for example, let's go back to just the J. Pull this up big. And we're going to go to the Glyph panel, which is right here. That's the calligraphic A. And let's see, I had a hard time finding this last time. Let me see if I can find it this time without too much hassle. I think it's maybe two. Where did it go? There we go. It got into the group for the rest of the letters. So there, we're selecting the J, and I believe it is, and I lost my place again. I believe it is this one. There. So now this is where you kind of step apart. And you say, you know what, I am not just using the font as it lays, I'm coming in and I'm modifying it. And I'm turning it into something new. And I personally really like having this curve that we've come up with here and using that because it feels so much more elegant to come down for me, in my opinion, than just this real sharp, like, oh, I put this here. This feels like part of it, whereas this is kind of like I dropped this heart and this swirl in, and it almost looks like, you know, I used 3 different pieces to make this letter. So, you know, given that, obviously that's got to get work done, but I'm running out of time and trying to explain it as I go. And I would say the only other thing that I've got to really, you know, pound into people's heads is you select it all and you want to unite when you're done, not before, unite to make sure you take those tails off, because otherwise you're going to get that engrave issue where it's going to basically, it's a double negative, so you get blank space. So that's an hour, believe it or not. I'm going to leave it here. And if anyone has any questions, please let me know in one of the laser groups, or leave a comment below in my YouTube channel. And that'll help me with what I do next for next week and planning another video. So I hope you had a good time. I hope I wasn't too scratchy toward the beginning. And let's see here. I need to check chat and see if there was anything. No. Okay, so no questions. Thank you. You're very welcome. And I'll be back next week. Right now we're on a Wednesday schedule, 2 p.m. Pacific time. And as always, every video is available on my channel on YouTube afterward. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing here. And I'm going to wish everybody adieu, and I will see you next time.